Ready to go.
Okay.
You're ready to go. Start talking.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. Little production blip there. I didn't hear the intro music, so I apologize. But welcome back, everybody, and thanks for joining us. It's the 25th day of March, 2023. Kind of a crappy day here in New Jersey. Gray, raining. Um, But I'm so happy you're joining us today. And again, I just want to give a shout out to all of our loyal listeners. And my update for Steve is he's making progress. That's the best thing I could say. And I'm actually going to go see him today. And he's staying at my brother Christopher's in Pennsylvania. And like I said, all the love that everyone sent and all the well wishes. It's been amazing. Miriam and Jeremy Bennett, and I wanted to give a shout out to Jeremy too because I know his mother's not feeling well, and I hope they're doing good. But Steve is just chomping at the bit that he's not here with us, and unfortunately, I'm not sure he's going to be on the show for a little stretch, but I'm hoping every day that he's going to be back with us the following week. And Tony, I know you're out there, and I know you miss Steve and his witty comments back and forth. But thank you for your support as well. And like I said, I'll keep you guys posted. But my little brother's going to be okay. It's just going to take a little bit of time. That's all. So anyway, so let's jump into our monologue. And of course, our monologue is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York, who I can't thank enough for sponsoring the show and sending his regards to Steve. And it's just been amazing. So thank you, everybody. So our monologue this week is basically two words: play ball. It's baseball season, right? So by the time we're on the air next week, we'll have started the 2023 Major League Baseball season. And, from a sports fan perspective, we're Rob and Steve and we kind of consider ourselves amateur baseball historians, and opening day is always something special. It was always a day. My brothers, they all went to opening day for many years. I went to many as well, not as many much as they did, but Major League Baseball is underway. It's going to start this week, and of course, it's a long season, 162 games, which is, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We're going to see a lot of things happening. People will get injured, and will Judge hit 62 home runs again? All those kind of things. But very excited, and that's the first sign of spring when ball players put the gloves on and hit the field. I can't wait. And that not only includes Major League Baseball, right? But as you guys know, my nephew Brendan is the pitching coach at Rutgers, and they had a great year last year. And a lot of people thought they got snubbed, which I believe they did. Um, but they're going to bounce back. So that season's underway. They've been playing down in South Carolina and Georgia for, the start of the season. And I think their first home game maybe next week. And the newly renovated, new scoreboard, lights, all that kind of stuff at Rutgers Stadium. So um, can't wait. And of course, St. Joe's baseball, right? I've talked about it before. If you guys are ever out and about and you want to go to a nice game, and you can catch a minor league game and high school baseball games, and again, so the Yankees are starting the season. So can't wait for baseball to get underway. Long run. We got a lot of stuff going on. We're going to jump right into our big topic is obviously college basketball, right? March Madness. And if the words March Madness ever meant something, it certainly is this year. It's been absolutely crazy, but that's what we were hoping for, right? So many things in college basketball and Cinderella stories, and let's jump right in there, right? We had Fairleigh Dickinson, right, from New Jersey, wins second time that a 16 seed beat a number 1 seed. Great story. Backstory here now, right, is that the head coach of Fairleigh Dickinson taking over for Iona as Rick Pitino takes over the Redmen of St. John's. Oh, I apologize. It's now called the Red Storm. So um, crazy. So let's jump right into it, right? We're down, and then there were 8, as they say, right? 8 teams left out of 64, and these are big surprises. I mean, upsets, all the number ones, I believe. Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, are all done, right? Alabama, which was a big surprise last night, they got beat. So there's 8 teams left, and let's go into those 8 teams, right? I sit right next to a young man who's a really sweet kid. He's an absolutely awesome, and he's a graduate of Florida Atlantic University. And you go, wait, Florida Atlantic University? They're in the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament? And the answer is yes, they are. Big surprise. Didn't think they were going to get this far, obviously. But if anybody out there has at least even one team left in the Final Four, I'd be surprised. So, but they got to, they're going to go up against Kansas State. And I got to tell you, this kid, Marquise Noel for Kansas State, and I was talking to somebody about it, like, we don't get to see Kansas State play, right? The college basketball season is long, and it's just awesome. But, this kid, Montrezl Noel, he's 5'8", built like a fire hydrant, and he broke the NCAA record for passing, for assists the other night, 19 in an NCAA tournament game, and spectacular passing. But what a leader this kid has become in this tournament. He's like kind of like the best player in this tournament right now, still left. But enjoy that. That's a good game. And now we got a really good game. I had, as you know, full disclosure. And Logan, I got your message, buddy. I know you're down in Delaware, and I miss you guys. And I hope you're going to watch the basketball games tonight, buddy. And Logan is going to be on our show pretty soon, so get ready for that, kid. And look, Logan says I had Kansas to win it all. Well, unfortunately, Kansas, Logs, is not in there. It's Kansas State. But I love you, buddy, and have a good time with your grandma and grandpa down in Delaware. And give a hug for Hayden for me. So anyway, let's move on. We got UConn, Gonzaga. Great matchup, right? It's been a while since we've seen UConn, since the Jim Calhoun days, and perennial. I think he won at least 2 with Connecticut. Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they won a couple, but they haven't been on the map. But you got to give credit to Danny Hurley, who's taken over that program. They had some rough patches, and they're going up against a great team in Gonzaga, a perennial Final Four, Elite 8 team. Mark Few, been there for 24 years. And, year after year, Gonzaga always has a player that makes an impact. And this kid, Drew Timme, God, I really would like to see this kid win a national championship. He's going to be the all-time leading scorer at Gonzaga. And he came back. He could have went pro last year, but he's back. What a player he is. Great matchup. UConn, Gonzaga. Rob, who do you like in that game?
UConn won 4 national championships.
4 under Calhoun or 3 under Calhoun? And somebody else won it as the head coach. I don't think it was Kevin Ollie. Was it Kevin Ollie? Might have been.
It was Shabazz Napier. No.
No.
No. Hold on.
I think it was Kevin Ollie, actually.
Yeah, I think it was 3-1.
Yep, 3-1. Right.
Yep.
So that's a good matchup. Who do you like?
Well, I have Gonzaga going all the way, so I'm going to stick with my Zags.
Oh, so producer Rob still has his Final Four guy, one of his teams in there, right?
Yep.
Good for you. I like this kid Timmy. He's a player, isn't he?
Yeah, plays a lot of heart. That's what we're going to see in college basketball. That's what's missing in the NBA. This kid plays with heart. He wants to win, and
Yeah.
we'll see. That should be the best game of the day. UConn Zags.
But that Michigan State Kansas State game was amazing. That was a great game, and we've talked about it on the show. I'm a huge Tom Izzo fan, and Michigan State had some great players too. But this kid really, Noel, he really turned it up. What a spectacular game he had. So Rob, here's the big surprise of Creighton, San Diego State, right? I'm not sure. This may be maybe the first or second time that Creighton made the Elite Eight, but certainly not in the past 20 years, I bet. And San Diego State, I'm going to venture to say they've never made the Elite Eight, have they? You could
I
look
would have
that
to
up.
check. I would have to check, but Creighton was a top 5, top 10 pick in the preseason, so it's no surprise they made it this far.
No, it's just a kind of a surprise that it's been such a crazy, tournament, right? Alabama goes down and Purdue goes down and all the number ones kind of got knocked out. It's been good to see. You're right. I watched Creighton actually play a couple times this year. They're a good team. But that's a surprise. San Diego State for me. I'm going to say that's their first Elite Eight.
First time.
Huh?
First time.
First time, right?
Yep.
Who do you like in that game?
I'm going to root for San Diego State. I like the underdogs. And that coach always seems to have that team prepared to win. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully he has this the year he does it.
I'm going with Creighton in this game, and I'm going to bring up Creighton later on for a particular reason, but I'm going to go with Creighton. And how about this? The final game, Miami, Texas. Right? Texas, I can't believe it. It's been the first Elite Eight for them since like 2008, which is surprising because they were always a really good team. And Miami, right? That's a football school. They're not supposed to play basketball,
They're good, though.
They are good. They are good. They're in the Big East, I think, right? Big East?
Who's that?
Miami?
They're ACC.
ACC, yeah. Is Leonard Hamilton still the coach at Miami, Rob?
I believe he is, yes.
Yeah, so he's got to be there for at least 15 years. But that's an interesting game too. But I'm taking Texas in this game. Who do you like?
No, I'm sorry. It's Jim Laronga is the head coach. Jim Laronga.
Oh, Hamilton is not there anymore, right?
Not there anymore.
Okay. I'm going with Texas. Who do you like?
I'm rooting for Miami here. Maybe it's my anti-KD post-Brooklyn stance. I can't stand them. Get out of here. Let's go Miami.
I can't root for Miami in anything. So I'm going with Texas. I'm going with Kansas State. And I'm going with Gonzaga as well. And I'm taking Creighton. So I think we only differ in one, right? But good luck. Congratulations on having Gonzaga in the Final Four. You're still in the money run,
Yeah, I gotta check. I'm checking now to see what my bracket looks like.
All right. Well, I venture to say there's not a perfect bracket out there on ESPN, CBS Sports, any of that stuff. I guarantee it. Anyway, Rob, so enjoy the games. That's going to be going on tonight and tomorrow. And there was one point I wanted to bring up, though, like for the first couple of rounds, they play these games so late on a weeknight. I mean, on a Saturday, and I could see it, but Sunday night last week, the game didn't start till like 9:15. That's crazy. Old men like us can't stay up all night and watch these
Yeah, it
games.
was. Yeah, it was. I thought the same thing. Wednesday was. Sunday night was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of late for this. You know,
Absolutely.
these West Coast games are kind of late for the East Coast crowd. You know.
I know, but this isn't the first time they've had
I
the
know.
West region. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, folks, so the NCAA indeed it was madness so far, and I think it's going to be a great run. And we'll find out a week from tomorrow who the national championship is going to be awarded to. We'll see how it goes. So, Rob, let's move on to the National Football League. Right? It's all this free agent stuff has been going on, and yeah, it's just crazy. The old Aaron Rodgers story. Obviously, he's coming to the Jets, and obviously he had his wish list, so they loaded up on wide receivers. And it was funny, Rob, because who got cut because of the salary cap issue was kind of, which is really the reason some of these still good players or not getting cut and stuff. But Ezekiel Elliott, so he wants to play for the Jets because Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback. And I thought it was great because they had a couple of guys like Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Hopefully Breece Hall comes back for the Jets. He's coming off an ACL and you never know. But he did some kind of a tweet or whatever it was. He said, "No, I think we're good here."
Yeah, all three teams he wants to go to, they're like, we're good.
That's exactly right. Right.
We're good.
So it puts into perspective when you see a guy like Frank Gore that played for like 15 years and Ezekiel Elliott's what's his seventh year now, maybe, and he's pretty much going the way of Le'Veon Bell. So
Everybody else, yeah.
But you know what, Rob? Somebody will sign him because it's just been crazy that all these signings now. Garoppolo is in Vegas, and where's Mayfield? He's in where did he sign?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa, right? And yeah, so Adam Thielen, right? Third all-time leading receiver in Minnesota Vikings history. Minnesota kid, right? A victim of this whole salary cap thing, right? So he gets cut and signs with the Panthers, right? So I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but he had 9 great years with the Vikings. He was a hell of a player.
A drafted player too.
Yeah. So at a Minnesota State, which
Wow.
by the way was the fictitious school on Coach with Coach Hayden Fox. Remember Craig T. Nelson, the show Coach?
Yep.
That's where he was the head coach, Minnesota State. Right? So we got a $40 million quarterback in dressed in blue, and we're going to have, I don't know what Rodgers is going to make, but,
I'll tell you one thing. Speaking of the Giants real quick, they're starting a lot of now they're going to their bargain shopping. Now we got Jamison Crowder. We're getting a bunch of D-backs that are, but we notice they're all 1-year contracts. So what Shane is doing, he's kind of like throwing a bunch of stuff onto the wall and see what's going to stick in the fall.
Yeah, but they got some holes to fill. This kid McCain is kind of a decent defensive back, and you're right. They're not prominent, A players, but they lost a couple of guys. So listen, and you're right, Rob, about the 1-year contracts. I love that. It's come to work. You play, you get another contract. We're not guaranteeing you $40 million like this guy. Do you see what the Philadelphia Eagles did? We now have a left tackle, Lane Johnson. They signed him to a 1-year contract, making like $35 million a year.
What?
Now, I mean, it's insane.
I need one of those to get motivated, work out, get in shape, make a lot of money, and just, let it all loose again.
Hey, you know what? This is great news for us. And our guest was Luke Whippler, right? And
well, I was just going to say that. The only thing I can see now, we still need an alpha wide receiver.
we're going to draft one.
But that could be where Whippler would go, unless he drops down to the second round.
That's the question, because there's a lot of things. I saw an article yesterday. It said the Cardinals, if he's there on the board, they're taking him because they need a center, right?
Okay.
But Luke, listen, I want him on the Giants. We could use it, but the Giants are going to go. I think Joe Shane is doing a great job. I think Dable knows what he needs, and he needs that wide receiver. And I think it's Quentin Johnson from.
There's about five of them. There's that guy from TCU. There's
Right.
the kid from Tennessee who was hurt this year but had a great junior year, and the kid they scouted this week in Ohio State.
Yeah.
And another guy from USC who was at Pittsburgh.
Yep,
There's
that's
about
right.
4 or 5 receivers that are first round quality in the back end. Also, it's either that or a quarterback. Another corner, like a stud quarterback to go with Dory Jackson on the other side.
Now, listen, their picks are this. If you can get that wide receiver, that Quentin Johnston type guy from TCU, you take him. Otherwise, if he's gone, then maybe you can come back and get somebody on the back end, but they have to take a linebacker. And that's what I know that's what Dable knows what they need. I know Joe Shane is smart enough to know you can't waste it on a cornerback or a defensive back. Not with that first pick. There's no Sauce Gardner out there that, is a kind of a can't miss player. So we'll see how that goes. But I thought this was interesting, the money they're paying these guys. Remember, I think his name was Laramie Tunsil from, where was he?
One of the Florida schools.
No, I think it was like Kansas or something like that, He was the guy they caught smoking pot on.
Yeah, it would be a thing on.
Yeah, he was the guy they caught on camera smoking pot on draft night, right? He's now the highest paid offensive lineman in the history of the league. Isn't that funny? I thought it was funny.
Hey, it's legal now, right? So I guess,
Yeah, but this was.
I know.
That was 5 years ago, And that's the role model, and they drafted him, and he was kind of a bum for the first couple of years, but now he's the highest paid lineman in the league. Right, so Rob, that's what we'll focus on, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we're going to redo our draft show. Maybe we can do that on. Yeah. So we could do that on Sports with Mono and Mono, and maybe we can have your buddies as guests on our show this year. We'll see. We'll work it out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was already invited to a draft party for Luke, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know where I'll do the show from, but so Rob, let's move off the NFL and into this. We touched on baseball, but I wanted to bring this whole thing up with this World Baseball Classic. It was a big hit with baseball fans. I got to say, I didn't watch a lot of it, but it comes down to Japan and against the U.S. and Ohtani against Trout. I mean, this was storybook kind of stuff, yeah. And I know a lot of people were down on it because, right, Diaz got hurt and Altuve got knocked out with a broken hand. But you know what? That can happen anywhere, right? We saw it happen to Rhys Hoskins on Philadelphia the other day. He blew his ACL out. He's done for the year. So it can happen anywhere. But I think it was kind of cool. A lot of people joke about it and they called it the worthless baseball classic. And I'm like, come on, this is like the Olympics. And these are all major, a lot of major league players playing for different countries. I think it's great. I actually think it's awesome.
Look at the backlash Mad Dog Russo's getting for his comments.
What were his comments? That they shouldn't be playing this?
He was so against it, like really arguing against how bad this is. And everybody's like, bro, you're on MLB TV. They're paying you. And you're trashing your employer, so to speak. Yeah, everybody's going against him because of his comments about it.
I don't know, but look at the ratings they got.
I tell you, that was an intriguing 2 innings. I watched the end of that game.
I did too.
I was into it.
No
You know?
question about it. No question. And I get it. Listen, Edwin Diaz could have blown out his leg jumping up and down in Tampa, Florida, right? I mean, we're the Mets, Port St. Lucie,
For
right?
St. Lucie, yeah.
Yeah. Altuve gets hit in the hand, breaks his hand, but that's baseball. This can happen in spring training. I mean, all they do in Florida is just, throw the ball back and forth, and they barely play in these spring training games and so forth. So, listen, maybe that's why Aaron Judge didn't want to play, right? So he didn't get hit in the hand. And
Yeah, they called him and Stanton out. Like, where are you guys? You guys should be here,
and I actually heard some comments from Steve Cohen, saying, this kind of stuff happens. Yeah, it's a big setback, but you know what? I think he was a big supporter of this World Baseball Classic. And you can't tell.
Huh? They got insurance. There's insurance on those guys anyway.
Yeah, I know, from the money, but the Mets, this was a key piece. The question was Edwin Diaz going to be Edwin Diaz from last year, or was it going to be Edwin Diaz from the year before, right? I mean, you want to talk about a difference from one season to another. You didn't know what you were going to get, but they paid him, and it looked like, so now David Robertson is going to be the closer for the Mets.
Looks that way.
I know, and I said to myself, wait, not that David Robinson, right? That pitched for the Yankees for years, but he's got to be in the league 15 years now. I mean, at least. Right?
Yep, at least.
Right. But listen, the Mets, I'm looking at the Mets, and again, I've said this before, from a Yankees-Mets perspective, I don't think the Yankees did anything to improve their team. Yeah, the Carlos Rodon signing was, okay, that's just another body. Another guy that you don't know what you're going to get from him, right? He had a Cy Young season, and then he had some crappy seasons, right? And he's on the disabled list, right? But overall, you still got Donaldson at third. But here's the question for the Yankees is, are they going to, is Anthony Volpe ready, right? He's been their gem, their Derek Jeter in waiting kind of thing. And is he ready to come up? That kind of bums out some people at the Somerset Patriots because he was playing there, right, for the Somerset Patriots, which is minor league baseball, awesome. But all indications are this kid is going to be a Major League Baseball player. And is it now? But you know what? You got to find out, right? Everyone wants to run IKF out of town, which I completely disagree. I thought he was a serviceable guy last year. I don't know why everyone was so down on him.
Yeah, I guess he had a couple of really bad at-bats that kind of left a sour taste in the fans' mouth. But he could be, between him and Cabrera, you're going to have two outstanding players who can play anywhere in the infield and outfield. That's huge for your bench.
Well, that's what it's going to come down to for the Yankees, because overall, they didn't really make any wholesale changes. It's still going to be Torres at second, right? And you got, believe it or not, Aaron Hicks is going to probably be the opening day left fielder for the New York Yankees. I don't know how that's possible. But if these kids, Cabrera and who's the other one? Oswaldo, and there's two
Peraza.
Huh?
Peraza,
right. So if these kids can start, developing into major leagues, then maybe the strategy works. But overall, I look at the landscape, and it looks exactly like it did last year, and they couldn't pull it off. And the Mets, you look at this team, and right, they signed Nimmo and McNeil, but these guys aren't, top tier players. But, the Mets are rolling the dice on the catcher, right? Thinking he's ready, he's going to start. And you still got Lindor, and you got a great pitching staff, obviously. But the question with Verlander and Scherzer, they're 38, 39, 40 years old, these guys.
Exactly.
So, but the Mets, they will be there. They will win 100 games just the way they did last year. But the story is Atlanta going to win 102? Is Philadelphia going to win 104? Right? They're getting Bryce Harper back, and they got a team that's their roster they made the World Series last year and then they improved it again. Now they got Trey Turner there. I mean, they're
And they
formidable.
may be signing Luke Voigt too.
Oh God, Luke Voigt
Yeah,
couldn't play for the Somerset
yeah, but
Patriots.
he's been hitting the ball. He's been hitting really well this spring, and they lost the guy you mentioned before.
Yeah, but Luke Voigt never realized how good he had it in New York, boy. I tell you.
Oh, he got cut. It was his fault.
Yeah, but okay, but he's
Crazy or
he's
whatever.
not in New York, and what has he done since? He hasn't done anything. Anyway, I'm just a little critiquing it. But when you look at the landscape of Major League Baseball right now, 162 game season starts Thursday. You got, and I think, by the way, I think it's the first time that all teams will be playing on opening day since 1968 or
Really, it's
something
not that
like that.
split thing where it's like half the league plays and half the league plays.
Yeah,
Saturday.
they always used to have the Cincinnati Reds open the season, right? From when they were the Red Stockings, and they always played like the night before everybody else played.
Who do we have Thursday? Yankees.
Oh,
Texas, right?
I don't know.
Oh no, we're playing the Giants.
Oh, that's a cool opening day, though.
I think it's the Giants. But what drives me nuts with MLB, I mean, aside from opening day and the pomp and circumstance, who the hell wants to go to a Yankee game in April when it's usually 45 degrees and raining, or it's 40 at night in a night game? And I don't know why they don't do this whole, like, let's play the warmer states earlier and then filter it in, once the weather breaks in May.
When I talked about opening day, the last opening day I was at with the Yankees,
It snowed.
it snowed.
I was there too. I think I was there too.
It snowed, but you know what? It felt like it was 85 degrees outside, man. It didn't matter one bit.
I mentioned this on the other show. The other show I do on Wednesdays. I was like, it was so cold that day. Remember those? Remember the '90s? You had that pullover jacket. All the sports teams had them. The starter jacket you pulled over your head.
Yeah,
It was it was like 3/4 zipper. I wore my Giants one that day. It was so cold.
I know. Now, but when you're at Yankee Stadium, it feels a hell of a lot warmer, even though it was snowing on opening day. That's funny. You were at the same game. Awesome. But anyway, when you look at the landscape of Major League Baseball, there's not really a lot of good teams. I mean, obviously the National League East with the Mets, Phillies, and the Braves, probably the toughest division in baseball, right? The Central, and maybe Milwaukee wins it, but those teams stink. In the West Coast, right? The Astros will be there, and what, the Mariners, right?
Yep.
Seattle. And on the American League Central, these teams suck. I mean, Minnesota and Cleveland, right? They're all barely break 500. So the Yankees are going to be there, but they got to win more than 89 games or whatever they won last year, right? And we're going to have to hear,
They should, but I just read this morning before we went on the air. Supposedly Severino's got an injury now. Another injury to the Yankees.
Right.
It's crazy now.
But look at the Mets do have a good starting lineup, but obviously the team to beat, I think, in the National League, obviously from the West, is the Dodgers, right? You look at their lineup, but they did lose their starting shortstop. Turner's gone. Justin Turner is gone. Trey Turner and Justin Turner are gone. But you got Mookie Betts, and he's one of the top 8 players in the game. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I'll reemphasize, I couldn't be happier that Trevor Bauer will not be wearing a Dodgers uniform ever again. Right? That would make Tommy Lasorda vomit.
Did you hear? Let's hear what happened with him.
What?
His first press conference in Japan. And only one person asked him about the allegations.
Well, that was scripted. That was part of his contract, I bet. Don't ask me about it, right? So, Rob, 162 games. It's a long, long season, man. It's awesome, though. And Get out there, folks, and catch a minor league or a high school baseball game, because if you don't want to pay $50 to park at Yankee Stadium.
Baseball's the only sport that starts off cold, gets hot, and it gets cold again.
That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, Rob, let's touch base on your NBA real quick. How are your Brooklyn Nets doing these days?
You know what? They're hanging in. They're definitely hanging in, and right now it's just everybody's jostling for position to try to, be in that top six in the playoffs, so you avoid those playing games.
Yeah, playing games. That's right. But I don't know. They're not going anywhere. The Knicks aren't going anywhere. They'll make it. Like I said, they're going to end up having to play Cleveland or somebody like that. Obviously, they're not going to. I think they could possibly, the way they're playing. But this guy Randall is a hothead. And you know what I was laughing about? Because last year, everyone started to say that Barrett is not making it, and then he had like a good stretch, and now he's going to be an NBA player, and now they're trashing him again, right? I don't get that. I mean, AJ Barrett. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, he could be a stud, but this Knick team with Randall, I just can't see them. You know what? I'm even going to say they're not going to win even one series. I can't. I think the Nets have a better chance of winning a series, but no one in that conference is going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Not with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not Joel Embiid, who possibly could be the MVP.
I think Miami could beat them.
Nah, Miami had their chance 2 years ago, and they couldn't pull it off. I haven't heard Jimmy Butler's name once this year. Is he even? I haven't heard his name once. But they did give congratulations to the Memphis fans because they welcomed back Ja Morant, with a standing ovation. This is the NBA. This is what's going on.
What's crazy?
A guy waving a gun in a nightclub and who's just absolutely out of control gets a standing ovation by the Memphis fans. Wow.
What's crazy is this guy wasn't really like that punk athlete guy in college. He just became this guy all of a sudden.
That's exactly right. He has become this guy, and that's the NBA. We've seen it time and time again, right, guys? Just even Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, perfect examples. When Kevin Durant came into this league, he was an articulate, polite, just a confident guy, but not arrogant. And look what he's become. And Kyrie Irving, when he was at Duke, he was an absolute, great player and polished and courteous. And now he's this NBA figure, and that's what happens. But, Ja Morant is going to be a great basketball player if he can keep his head out of the toilet, because it would be a shame. He can't even be 23 years old, maybe. I mean, he's that young. But anyway, the NBA always takes a back seat to the NHL, Rob. And my Rangers are looking good. But so are the Devils, and so are the Islanders, right? But the Rangers are starting to pull together, right? Kane's starting to settle in. Shesterkin's starting to play like the Vezina Trophy winner he was last year. And I know I continue to try to sell you on this hockey, and I can't get
I'm gonna start watching. I'm a Devils fan. I'm gonna start watching.
And I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday. I mean, obviously Steve and I are huge Ranger fans, and we've been watching them since we were kids. But I worry about the Devils. That's going to be a tough matchup for the Rangers. I mean, the Devils are really a team that's not so much flown under the radar in our area, right, in the metro area, but overall in the NHL, and they're a really, really good team. So we talk about it time and time again. It's the hardest trophy to win in sports. There's no question about it. You could end up playing 4 7-game series That's 28 games. The regular season is 82 games. I mean, but that's why these guys are warriors. But
Yeah.
Rob, you got to watch these Boston Bruins. They're a team that's going to possibly have the all-time record for most wins in a season and most points in a season. And we were talking about it with somebody yesterday. Like the NHL came out with this players survey about, who's the best defenseman, who's the best, passer, and who's the guy you'd least want to have on your team, who's the dirtiest player. And this kid Marchand on Boston, who is a hell of a player. He's exactly the guy you say. I hate playing against this guy, but I would love to have him on my team. And Boston is going to be the team to beat, just like the Bucks are in basketball. And then hopefully, listen, it's good for the NHL because this Connor McDavid is having a season that we haven't seen in quite a while. Scored his 60th goal. But when you put that into perspective of what Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux used to do, putting up 160, 180, and Gretzky 212 points, it's amazing. But this kid's a player. That's somebody you want to get down to, and love to see the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid, in the Stanley Cup Finals, hopefully against the Rangers. Hopefully. All right, Rob. So I think you're waning. I think you're going to start to watch a little more hockey than you're accustomed.
I will.
Okay. All right, folks. So let's move on to our random points of interest, which of course is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, and got a bunch of points, Rob. First of all, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Jim Walsh, who was a absolute diehard loyal listener of the show, became a grandfather again. His first grandson bears the same name as my grandson, Logan James. So congratulations, Mr. Walsh. Welcome to the world, Connor Michael Walsh. And again, we were going to have a loyal listener, Mr. Don Orlowski, on, but we had some technical problems. But Don, thank you as well. And like I said, we're only as good as the people that listen to our show, and we thank you guys. Rob, couple of random points. Rick Pitino, right? It leaves Iona, takes St. John's, and does that make them an instant Elite Eight team next year? I mean, maybe, right? With this deal stuff.
Here's what I heard. Here's what I read about Pitino, which I thought was kind of funny. What he's been doing for 25 years is now legal. So let's see how he plays within the rules.
Well, the rule is there are no rules in college sports anymore.
Exactly.
Right? But the funny thing is the guy from Fairleigh Dickinson, what was his name?
Tobin Anderson.
Tobin Anderson, right? He leaves FDU. He gets the Iona job. And I wanted to bring somebody else up, Kim English. Kim English is a friend of our family here, and Kim was the head coach at George Mason for a few years, and he just got the job at Providence. Right. So Kim had a good career. He actually played a few years in the NBA, but he's an up and coming coach, and he goes from George Mason to Providence, and then he could take that team places. He's going to be one of the up and coming coaches in college basketball. Yeah, so Rick Pitino goes to St. John's. So now he's got to get a Walter Berry, a Chris Mullen, and a Mark Jackson, right?
That was a no-brainer for him because, like we said before, he lives on a golf course in Westchester, so his commute is maybe a half hour longer.
Yeah.
He's still gonna love it.
Yeah. And how about this? So Notre Dame, right? Mike Bragg steps down at Notre Dame, and they hired Penn State's coach, who made a pretty good run, had a good season in basketball, right? Micah Shrewsbury, right?
Yep.
Takes over at Notre Dame. I can't believe, though, how long Mike Bragg was there. I had no idea he was there like 20 years at Notre Dame.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it, but it flew.
Right. I mean, God, I just remember watching, Digger Phelps, in those teams. They had a good run. Remember when Toby Knight was on that team, right? I think they made the Elite Eight or maybe even the Final Four that year, right? That's a long time ago. A couple other random points, Rob. So good news for Roger Goodell and his family. He's going to negotiating his new contract. So he could potentially make, I think last year he only made $63 million as the commissioner. Huh?
That's it? That's it?
63 million? That makes it more than Patrick Mahomes.
He should work take 1 year, Roger, work for $1. You've made enough money to the next 4 generations to live off of it. You know what? Do something for everybody else. Work for $1 and donate that money to somewhere else.
Rob?
Or pay your veteran NFL guys who are literally have no money and are living on nothing.
I've been saying that for years. And 63 million, but that just goes to show that the NFL is a money-making machine. And, he's just taking it. Listen, I find it absurd too. When they're stiffing all these guys, they tried to bury the concussion stuff, and they don't take care of these guys, like you said. That's a passion of mine. It makes me kind of ill to see Roger Goodell make $65 million a year. And then the fans who can't afford to go to games, unless you're in you're the top 20 of the income bracket, it's insane. I had to bring that up. Rob, there was an interesting thing. Olivia, I'm going to say the name, Olivia Picardo Brown. You know who she is?
Nope. First
woman to make an appearance in a Division I NCAA baseball game.
Okay.
She plays for Brown University. She got up, pinch hit, grounded out, but that's a milestone for women. Congratulations, I mean, somebody like that, that's a big milestone. I absolutely had to bring that up, and that's never happened before. Oh, but here's something, Rob. I know you're a boxing guy, right? I mean, how could you be a boxing guy anymore? I mean, I was a boxing guy back in the day when you had Frazier, Foreman, Ali, and all those guys. Manny Pacquiao is coming out of retirement. I mean,
Pacquiao?
Yeah. Who is going to pay to see a 47-year-old guy get his ass handed to him by some 23-year-old kid? I mean, this is insane. But that shows you the state of boxing. It's been non-existent. Outside of Tyson Fury, I bet you can't name one boxer that's even relevant anymore. And Miriam, thank you for the comment, and good morning to you from Washington, D.C. Probably a beautiful time down there with the cherry blossoms, I would assume. But thanks for your support for Steve, and thanks for your support for the show, and we certainly appreciate it. So, Rob, we move on to our notable passing segments, and unfortunately, there's one on the list that really hits home, certainly for you and me and people that used to appreciate basketball when basketball was basketball back in the 70s and the 80s. Willis Reed passed away, 80 years old. And you know what? That really hits home for me because I grew up watching Willis Reed lumber up and down that court, and he was absolutely a great player, known as the captain. And of course, the monumental clip of him coming out 1970, he had a torn thigh muscle, and he only scored 8 points, but they were 8 big points, and the Knicks beat Wilt Chamberlain and the Lakers for the title. 2-time champion, and just a class act on and off the court. I really admired him as a player, and that's a big loss for the NBA, and that's a big loss for old-time Knicks fans like myself.
And don't forget, he was also a Nets executive too.
Yes, but this is why I mentioned before, I wanted to bring up, the fact that Willis Reed just passed away and Creighton is in the Elite Eight. Willis Reed was the head coach of Creighton for 4 years. How about that?
There you go.
Right? So he was a class act, and right, he was an executive with the Nets. But you know what? Considered one of the top 50 all-time named to the 50th all-time greatest basketball players, and well-deserved. Here's another one, Rob. Dick Fosbury. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
Dick Fosbury invented the Fosbury flop for high jumping. He was 76 years old. He won the Olympic gold. They used to go head first over the bar. He invented the running down and head and back over the pole first. And that's what the standard is in high jumping now. And high jumping, you say, hey, well, listen, I remember guys like Dwight Stones in the Olympics in 1976 used to wear that Mickey Mouse shirt when he was high jumping. But you never would have heard of Dwight Stones if you didn't hear from Dick Fosbury. And Dick Fosbury was 76 years old. Very smart guy, engineering student, but he came up with the Fosbury flop.
Okay.
And Rob, one last notable passing here. Jerry Green. A lot of people don't know his name, but he was 94 years old. And Jerry Green is the only journalist to have covered every single Super Bowl. He was on the staff for the Detroit Free Press, 94, and literally covered the game this past Super Bowl, every single one. 56 Super Bowls?
Wow. Yeah.
So for a guy to have that kind of a run for a Detroit newspaper, that's very, very notable in the world of sports. And I wanted to bring that up. So Rob, listen, thanks for sitting in for us, and thanks for the production and so forth. And again, everybody, thanks for your thoughts and prayers. And we'll be back. Rob and I will be back next week, same time. And always send us an email at sportswithmano@gmail.com. And Rob, one last thing. My sister sent me a picture that I'm going to share with Steve when I see him today of Boston University. Did they win the national championship in hockey? I don't know if it was that or the Beanpot tournament.
This year?
Yeah. Can you just really check that out? Because
Hockey?
Yeah, NCAA hockey. I don't know. My sister sent it to me, and I couldn't really see the picture well, but I didn't know if it was the Frozen Four or it was the Beanpot tournament. But BU, notoriously great hockey school, right? With Chris Kreider. Oh, Chris Kreider went to Boston College. I take that back. But Chris Drury was a Boston University guy. So.
Yes, 4 p.m. today. It looks like the hold on, I'm trying to figure it out here.
Yeah, I think they're always a perennial top 4 team. So
I guess they're in their quarterfinals. So they play Cornell today.
Okay, yeah, Cornell's a good team too. But I'll show Steve that picture. So it's Boston,
Cornell. Minnesota versus St. Cloud State.
Yeah,
that is.
They won a national championship a few years ago.
Wow,
they did.
Quinnipiac right down the road versus Ohio State.
Quinnipiac's a good hockey team. Yeah.
Yes, and Michigan versus Penn State.
Awesome. Notably missing is Niagara, but anyway. Anyway, have a good weekend, Rob, and thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you next week.
Say hi to Steve for me.
I certainly will.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, bud.